tragedy striking the NASCAR community again. This time it is NASCAR great Denny Hamlin. His father has died after a fire at their family home in North Carolina. His mother also hospitalized. You're looking at images there from Gaston County, which is not far from the Charlotte area of that fire that took place yesterday, and fire officials able to get there on the scene. There were 2 people outdoors in which had to be hospitalized as well. But the big news out of that is that the father of NASCAR racer Denny Hamlin has died. His mother is in the hospital after just these devastating images you can see here of that fire. So let's go ahead and bring in Connor now. And Connor, first let's talk about the NASCAR community. I mean, this is coming on the heels of just 2 weeks ago of another NASCAR great dying in a plane crash there in North Carolina. Yeah. And now you have this. I mean, it has to be a very difficult time for those who follow the sport, and particularly these families.
Yeah, and when we look at any of these sports leagues, NASCAR or NFL, NBA, MLB, these guys really, and their families, and everyone associated with them, from coaches to trainers, in NASCAR's case, people who work on cars, they really become sort of a family. It's a very familial atmosphere because it is large groups of people who are all going through the same things and dealing with the same things and pursuing the same dreams, and they're around each other all the time, especially in NASCAR, where it's they travel from city to city, and they travel from city to city together. The entire circuit travels together all around the country throughout their season, and they are in each city for weekends at a time. If you've ever been to a NASCAR race, you know that they all set up right next to each other. All the garages are around each other, all the trailers are around each other, and so everyone involved with the sport spends a ton of time with each other and obviously have similar interests, and their families get to know each other, as we said. And so it's devastating for the entire sport and for everyone involved, and for someone like Denny Hamlin, who has been a really prominent figure in NASCAR, a leader in NASCAR in a lot of ways for such a long time, someone who has been a driver and has moved into positions of leadership, positions of ownership of teams, and you just have to imagine that he has endless relationships in the NASCAR community, and so to see something like this happen for Denny, for the Hamlin family, for all of their friends and loved ones, and then for everyone involved with the sport of NASCAR who has crossed paths with Denny Hamlin, worked closely with him, traveled closely with him. It's a tragedy. And you talk about this happening right after Christmas, right before New Year's, a time of celebration, the holidays here in the United States, and it's hard to imagine how difficult this is for the family and the friends and the NASCAR community. And all of those people become very, very tight-knit. So this is obviously an incredibly difficult piece of news coming out yesterday, Sunday night. The fire took place yesterday. We received news of Denny's father, and Dennis Hamlin, 75 years old, did pass away. Rest in peace to Dennis Hamlin. And then Mary Lou Hamlin, 69 years old, Dennis's wife, Denny's mother, is in critical condition. So it is an incredibly difficult situation to even sort of try to fathom, try to reconcile, right? We sit up here and we talk for a living. This is what we do. We work through these stories, we report on them, we talk about them, we bring in other people to break them down. But it's something where there are really no words to sort of convey this level of devastation, of personal devastation that has happened in regards to the Hamlin family and to the NASCAR family. So as you said, and then it comes on the heels of another tragedy. And we talk about how that tragedy occurred in North Carolina. And Denny Hamlin, his parents lived in North Carolina. He is a very prominent figure in the Virginia, North Carolina area. And so anyone who is involved with racing in North Carolina and is involved with even maybe some of the lower level racing communities in Virginia and North Carolina and just a part of that industry, this is something that has a very wide reach. It comes on the heels of another tragedy, and it happens during a time of year that we usually closely associate with family and with spending time with your loved ones. So it's a difficult situation all around. It's one that's hard to, kind of summarize in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and right now there's no determined cause of the fire as well. And you mentioned both of his parents, and by name, Dennis and Mary Lou. They were able to get out of the actual home, but their injuries were so severe. Mary Lou, last check for us that we've received, is still critically injured in that fire, and obviously his father passed away. I was just looking here on social media to find anything if we've heard from Denny Hamlin, and so far I have not seen any response from him. But it is interesting. We're talking about, just 2 weeks ago we were talking and sitting here reporting on the tragic death of Greg Biffle. In that crash with he and his family and other members, right? And Greg Biffle in his own was basically in queue to be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, one of the great names in the sport as well. And I was looking at Denny Hamlin's Twitter page, and one of his last social media posts that he has made public is his tribute to Greg Biffle. And when he, this was on the 18th, right? So about 2 weeks ago, saying that today motorsports, the world lost one of its fiercest competitors and kindest souls, saying Greg Biffle was a champion on the track and a humanitarian off of it, whose impact reached far beyond racing. And then he extended his condolences to his family, his wife, his children, and to the others who were involved in that. And so you get that sense, as you were saying, North Carolina, both of them North Carolina guys, obviously super connected within the sport, big names within the sport. But we talked about it even a few weeks ago, like the NASCAR community they're not unfamiliar when it comes to tragedy. And we were talking about it then when it came to plane crashes and aerial crashes, but definitely this time of year. This is just, it's devastating. And it'll be interesting to see what maybe caused it as well. Looking at some of the reporting from our sister station there in Charlotte, WCNC, they talked to neighbors, and they said they do have an issue with not having enough fire hydrants in that particular area of the community. Apparently it's a little bit more rural according to the reporting that I'm seeing. But I mean, it took them 2 hours to knock that fire out. So it was a big one.
And you showed those images right before we kind of came on here, and those are my first time. That's the first time I've actually seen those images, and it's completely engulfed in flames just looking at that right here, and you can see crews working to put that out. And did you just say 2 hours?
Yeah.
It took. That just goes to show the level of this, of this tragedy and the level of this kind of.
And because of a lack of water in the area.
Right.
So,
and so
that's what is being cited. It took 2 hours because of a lack of water in the area.
And when you hear, when you mention that neighbors have said that this is a problem that maybe already existed and that had already been mentioned, anytime in a situation like this that you hear even an inkling that this could have been prevented, that something could have been done prior to the incident to maybe keep it from happening, it's even more devastating. It hits you, even harder, because to think that this is something that maybe could have been prevented. But again, we don't know. There's more reporting to come out around the circumstances of the incident itself. So I'm sure it's something that we will learn more about as we go. For now, there's nothing more you can do than just keep all your feelings with, as you said, the NASCAR family and the Hamlin family especially. And, I want to maybe dive into just reading a little bit about this incident has actually illuminated some things for me about Denny Hamlin and his relationship to his father, Dennis Hamlin. Covering sports here, Scott Cash, our old sports director, and Brian Smith, our old sports anchor, both right when I started, impressed upon me, one, the importance of NASCAR in this area and the significance of that sport in this area. And then even beyond that, the role that Denny Hamlin plays in local NASCAR, Virginia and North Carolina NASCAR, because he is someone who, he was born in Tampa, Florida, but he moved to Richmond, Virginia when he was 2 years old. And so he grew up in the Commonwealth. Obviously, his parents lived in North Carolina. So he is someone who became one of the best drivers in a sport that holds a high degree of significance in this area, and he grew up in this area. So all of that kind of comes together to really make Denny Hamlin an especially significant figure for Virginia and North Carolina racing fans. And if Denny Hamlin is a significant figure to those fans, then Dennis Hamlin is as well. Because without Dennis Hamlin, there would be no Denny Hamlin. I'm just going to read straight off of some of the storytelling that NASCAR.com has around the Hamlin family. They say Dennis Hamlin, Denny's father, may he rest in peace, he started a family-owned race team in one of the local bays in his area to help his son pursue his dream. Now, the costs rose as Denny climbed the ladder from 4-cylinder mini stocks to his eventual grassroots landing place in late model competition. You can imagine this sport requires a lot of equipment. I mean, they are driving cars. Cars are expensive. So Dennis Hamlin is trying to provide a pathway for his son to pursue his dream. And as those costs rose, the trailer business that they had, that paid the family's bills. But there was a strain and an expense on keeping the race team going that began to mount. So Dennis Hamlin took out 2 mortgages on their rancher-style house and sold 4 classic cars, including each of their personal favorites. Dennis's 1932 Ford and Mary Lou, Dennis's wife and Denny's mother's 1967 Chevy Camaro Rally Sport convertible. They sold their favorite classic cars. You can just kind of feel it in the year and the make and the model. They sold those cars to make ends meet. They took out 2 extra mortgages on their home so that Denny could pursue his dream. They obviously made as many sacrifices as they could to ensure that their son could chase what he wanted to do, what he was passionate about, what he loved. And obviously Denny was able to kind of fully realize that dream, and he certainly could not have done it without his family's sacrifices. So that just goes to speak to maybe how deep their relationship was, the love between parent and child that is so apparent when it comes to the Hamlin family. So, you read that and it's mixed emotions, because obviously we talk about it in the midst of tragedy. Yeah. But to hear about the love that existed in that family and support that existed in that family, it's the good that you can look back on in a situation like this.
And even more so, let's keep in mind here, we're talking about Denny Hamlin, who is top 10, by the way, in wins in NASCAR at 60. And the Associated Press actually put together a story when that happened back in the fall, just a few months ago here, talking about the relationship between Denny and his father, Dennis Hamlin. They mentioned exactly what you were saying about taking out multiple mortgages on his Virginia home just so that he can help his son be able to finance and navigate, his dream. Yeah. And it says specifically that and during that win, when he was able to hit 60, that they interviewed Denny Hamlin and he started crying. And a part of it was because, and I'm just going to read here, he hasn't won a championship in this yet, but he says, Denny Hamlin, widely considered the greatest driver to never win the Cup, and goes into Phoenix Raceway, a sympathetic favorite to win the championship. Dennis Hamlin, they said, will not be there because he's too sick to travel. Hamlin says his father is dying. And here's the quote that he gave at that time. He said, I know for a fact this is my last chance for my dad to see it. I don't want him going and never getting to see the moment, Hamlin told the Associated Press about his dad, who's battling a serious illness. That was back in October, on October 30th, when that conversation took place. Obviously, this is not the way in which Denny Hamlin or anyone expected for this to happen.
Right.
That's not the way in which he was, referring to it. But it is interesting, and I can't imagine the complexities of emotions that he and his family are experiencing today when you already are thinking about that when it comes to your parent, but it doesn't happen, obviously, in the way that you expect. I can't even fathom that for them, but very close. And, it's interesting that losing his father was something that was already on his mind.
It is, and his father was battling that serious illness, and it also sticks out to me that when he talked about, he's pursuing his first Cup championship, it's something that he's dedicated his entire life to, but what's on his mind is his dad and his dad's health and his dad getting to see that moment. Even beyond experiencing that moment himself, he talks about his dad getting to see that moment. It speaks to the relationship that they had, and it just kind of further illuminates how devastating this situation is, and how tough it can be. And like you said, a very strange situation that, the family had talked about how this could be some of the last maybe year or years of Dennis Hamlin's life based on the illness he was battling. But then for this tragedy to strike, like you said, there's no way to know what that feels like other than that it is a devastating time for the Hamlin family.
And Sarah, can you play that video of the two of them? Okay, I want to read this quote, okay? And this, again, is after that race in October. They talked to him, and this is what he told reporters. He said of his dad, "He was just so happy. He always tells me I'm the best, no matter if I win or not. He always says I'm the best. He's a big hype guy. And I sat in his garage and talked with him." And this is where I wanted to bring up that photo that I think was at the top of this particular VO. He says, "He's got all my old memorabilia, and it's just good to reminisce. He's a reminiscent guy, and right now I'm just cherishing those hours that I have with him each week." And that was as he was going to North Carolina to celebrate with his father in person. He talks about that memorabilia. Fire officials did say that they were able to salvage a lot of the memorabilia that was in that home for the Hamlin family, which is incredible when you look at how bad that fire was. But they were able to save and salvage some of those memories for them that were held there in North Carolina. But we do always say, I'm sure if they could trade one or the other, I don't think it'd be a difficult choice for them. But
yeah, and it's nice, when you read that quote too, it's so many of us are moving so fast in life. Right. And a professional athlete, very few more so than a professional athlete, with the number of things they have to do and the competitive mindset that they have to have. It's so difficult to exist in any one moment.
Everything about a NASCAR driver is fast.
Right. And so to know that he was able to, because of really unfortunate circumstances, but to know that he was able to sit in some of those moments with his father and cherish those moments and make sure that he enjoys each other's presence and really soaks in some of the time that they had together. It is, at least we get to hear that while parsing through some of this just really, really terrible news that we have here. And you see in some of the clips that Sarah has played here, you're seeing Denny Hamlin sitting across from Michael Jordan in some of these clips. Denny Hamlin co-owns a racing team with Michael Jordan, 2311 Racing. 23 Michael Jordan's number, 11 is Denny's number. They co-own that team together. He is very close partners with Michael Jordan. You see these clips here, and that team, as one, brought an antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR earlier this year that was seen as a major court case that was going to try and break up some of what they described as monopolistic practices in NASCAR. It's something that they ended up settling out of court not long ago. We reported on it on Live Impact News. But it goes to speak to, again, what we kind of started off with at the top of the show, is the leadership position that Denny Hamlin holds in NASCAR, the influence that he has in the sport. Not only is he one of the great drivers in the sport right now, but he also is an owner of a big-time NASCAR team, a co-owner with Michael Jordan, one of the most significant figures in American culture. I mean, he is an incredibly prominent figure, and, you know, to see all of this happen, knowing how many lives he's probably touched, and through that, how many lives his dad has probably touched. It's just, you know, it's a tough day.
And just hearing you say that, I don't know how close in terms of a personal relationship Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin may have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be strictly professional, you know, two North Carolina, you know, guys in that moment. But if they do talk, I would imagine that even Michael Jordan would have some things to say about losing a father in a way that was outside of natural causes.
I didn't even make that. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I did not even make that connection. Michael Jordan lost his father at an early age. I did not even make that connection, and hopefully there is, whether it's that relationship or others in his life, there's places that he can turn to kind of find that mourning and find that advice and find that solace to deal with this situation. As you said, a difficult day in NASCAR, a difficult month in NASCAR.
And I can't remember when the first, I think the series, the first races for the upcoming season, they kick off fairly soon in the new year also. I remember we were mentioning it when it came to the tragedy with the Biffle family. And so I can't imagine, you know, there's going to be some tribute, obviously, for Greg Biffle. And I wonder what the support now looks like for Denny Hamlin in honor of his father. I just, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that I have been a major, you know, NASCAR fan all of my life and those things, but there are names that you know regardless of whether or not you follow the sport closely. But one thing I can tell you from all of my friends and colleagues who are very big into NASCAR races, huge sport, they're close, you know what I mean? And so the support runs deep. And so I would imagine there's going to be some level of support that's going to be poured out for this family as they're dealing with this grief. And we got to remember by our last reporting that, again, his mother still in the hospital, critically injured. And so we're hoping that the news of that, you know, can flip to, you know, she's doing well and survives all of this also, that he's not in a situation where, heaven forbid, you know, both parents in this moment. So just tough for that family. Definitely keeping them in thoughts and prayers. I'm sure many people are there in North Carolina, will continue to pour it across the country. And
he has, you know, of course, thoughts with Mary Lou Hamlin. So all support, anything, prayers with Mary Lou Hamlin and her family in hopes that she's able to make a recovery. It's something that we'll obviously be, you know, following as closely as we can here on Live Impact. And Denny Hamlin has run at Langley Speedway multiple times. Often, it's somewhere where he got his start. It's somewhere where he will come back to frequently. I mean, he is, you know, a figure in Hampton Roads racing as well. And so, you know, someone who close to home here, not just in North Carolina, but in Hampton Roads and sort of in our 757 area. So, all the support that we have, obviously there's only so much you can do, but definitely goes out to the Hamlin family and to the entire community of NASCAR. And again, it's, if you're on an NBA team, you travel into a city, you play against that team, and then your team leaves and goes to another city.
These guys, they travel together.
They all are together, moving throughout the country together. Think about how much time that is. How many times you just pass someone and you exchange a pleasantry, or you meet someone's spouse or mother or father or children. It really does have a familial atmosphere at times. So, everything that we can do to support that sport and that family is helpful.
And I wonder if we can look it up. I don't know if you would know. I definitely don't know offhand when the next race or event will take place at Langley Speedway. I wonder when that will take place.
It's a good question. I know that NASCAR ended its season in October. I personally was at an event where Denny Hamlin was there in 2018. In terms of the Langley schedule, I'm not sure what it is right now, but if there was ever an opportunity to get out there and see Denny Hamlin participate in any events they have out there, obviously that's something that we would sort of keep everyone posted on from our sports department and our news department as well. Let's see. They do have an event calendar here and a 2025 schedule. But I do know he was talking to some of my old bosses, Scott Cash and Brian Smith, generous with his time. Those guys have a lot to do. And as the media, we have certain asks that we know can be inconvenient. But just from any experience I had, which was mostly stories, generous with his time, willing to talk, willing to help out, willing to promote Langley and racing as a whole. So, it's a very, very difficult situation here in Hampton Roads as well. And it looks like for now I'm just seeing an awards banquet. I think the racing season has kind of ended as we go into the wintertime. Certainly when NASCAR starts up again next year, they will run the season in honor of a number of families and racing teams. So that's something that we'll certainly look forward to. And it's interesting because it is a violent sport. Not necessarily violent, but dangerous.
No, it's a dangerous sport.
It's a dangerous sport. And there's a certain level of risk that comes with that sport. And there has been tragedy on the track in the past as well. And so, again, it's a community that tight-knit, support each other, and we would think would continue to do so in these circumstances right here.
Yeah. NASCAR Communications 4 minutes ago just posted its condolences to Dennis Hamlin, saying that NASCAR extends its deepest condolences to Denny Hamlin and the entire Hamlin family. Dennis Hamlin instilled a love of racing in his son and sacrificed greatly to develop Denny into a world-class talent in the sport. We also continue to offer our thoughts and prayers to Denny's mother, Mary Lou, in hope for her recovery. That was 4 minutes ago by NASCAR on X. So, those tributes are starting to pour in. To what you've been saying, Connor, there are so many people within that community. Not only the drivers, but the families. Them all, right? You get super, super connected in all of that.
I mean, you see one of those cars pull up into its pit stop, and you just see however many people descend on that car, and half of them are getting tires, the other half are working on the engine or whatever else. I mean, these are huge teams of people that spend an entire year pushing towards one goal together. I mean, that really does create some incredible bonds and things that go beyond coworkers or friends, but family. And so, it's a dark cloud type of day, but one that hopefully everyone involved with that community will be able to help pull each other through, very specifically the Hamlin family and Denny and Mary Lou. So, we hope for the best.
I just checked with one of the morning reporters posted there from our sister station in the Charlotte area, saying as of an hour ago that Mary Lou Hamlin remains in critical condition in the hospital. And so, just looking for updates throughout the day, I'm sure, on her condition and how she's doing for this family. But that was posted just within the hour. So that's the latest that we kind of have at this time in terms of her condition. So we'll continue to check on it, I'm sure, throughout the day. And then, Connor, I'm sure you guys might have even some more that you might be able to report on during your stream from 1 until 3 o'clock.
Yeah. Hopefully positive updates, if possible, during a morning of very, very difficult updates to hear, and a morning where an entire community woke up under just a sense of immense loss. And we talk about connections to the Virginia area. Denny Hamlin, a longtime racer for the Joe Gibbs racing team. Joe Gibbs, obviously the legendary, iconic coach of the Washington Commanders, the Washington football team. And so, again, just everywhere you look, there are connections to this area and the Hamlin family. So just continues to hammer home how difficult of a day this is.
And how wide the spread is of the impact. And so if there was any doubt amongst Dennis Hamlin prior to his passing, he did make an impact not only through his son, but his own story in his sacrifice for his son as well.